They say life is full of ups and downs, but my childhood felt like it was mostly downs. My name is Joy, and I grew up in a small village in rural Kenya, where the air smelled of freshly tilled earth and boiled maize. My parents were peasant farmers, and when I say peasant, I mean our dinner menu depended on how generous the rains were that year. I was the eldest of 4 siblings, Amos, Wilfred, and little Michael, who had the kind of laugh that could charm even the grumpiest village elder. Life was tough, but the festive season was tougher. Every December, our father's extended family would descend on the ancestral homestead, bringing with them the glitter of city life. These were people who had left the village ages ago and now lived in Nairobi or Mombasa, working fancy jobs and wearing clothes so shiny they could double as mirrors. Meanwhile, my siblings and I were stuck in our patched-up shorts and hand-me-down dresses, feeling like the understudies in a play where our cousins were the stars. Christmas was supposed to be a time of joy, but for us, it was a time of errands and to feel less of humans. From the moment they arrived, our cousins were treated like royalty, and we were their loyal subjects. My grandmother, bless her soul, had a way of showing favoritism that could make even the chickens jealous. "Joy, fetch water for your cousins," she'd say, her eyes twinkling as she handed me a bucket. Meanwhile, the city kids sat under the mango tree, fanning themselves like they were allergic to manual labor. I would run down to the river hoping for a brighter future, wondering why we were treated so differently from our city cousins. Amos, my brother, once whispered to me, "Do you think their hands will fall off if they touch a jerry can?" "Maybe," I replied, rolling my eyes, "or maybe they'll melt if they sweat." Thanks for following the story up to this point. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. The worst part was Christmas Day. While our cousins paraded around in new clothes that smelled of city shops, we wore our usual Sunday best, which was more Sunday okay-ish. The village children would gather to admire the city kids, who told stories about malls, elevators, and pizza, things that sounded as foreign to us as snow. Humiliation wasn't limited to just clothes and errands. There was the food. Oh, the food! Christmas feasts were legendary. Chapatis, nyama choma, pilau, and stews rich with spices filled the table. But we often ate in the kitchen, away from the laughter and the clinking of glasses. When leftovers came our way, they were served with a dismissive wave, as though we were lucky to get even that. Our grandmother made it so obvious to us that since our parents had contributed so little to the meals, we were less deserving. Then came the city stories, tales that made us feel like creatures from another planet. "You mean you've never been to a supermarket?" one cousin asked me, her face twisted in disbelief. "How do you even survive?" Survive? Oh, we survived all right. We survived by swallowing our pride and dreaming of a day when things would be different. Grandmother would beam at them, her pride practically glowing. "These are my grandchildren from the city," she'd announce loudly. Then she'd glance at us almost as an afterthought. "And these are Joy and her siblings." "Her loyal employees," Amos muttered under his breath, making Wilfred and Michael stifle their laughter. When January rolled around and the city relatives packed up their suitcases and drove off in their shiny cars, the homestead would fall silent. It was like a curtain closing on a grand performance. Grandmother, now devoid of her stars, would turn to us and suddenly remember we existed. "Ah, my children, come sit with me," she'd say, her voice dripping with affection that had been on a month-long vacation. "You know you're my favorites." Favorites? Really? Amos and I would exchange glances but say nothing. We knew better than to argue with an elder, even if her memory was conveniently selective. But life has a funny way of flipping tables. We grew up, worked hard, and clawed our way out of poverty. I became an engineer. Amos became a teacher. Wilfred started a small business. And Michael, well, he grew up to be a man whose laugh still turned heads. Slowly, we turned the tide for our family. No more fetching water for people in shiny shoes. We were now the ones wearing those shoes. One Christmas, after many years away, we decided to visit the ancestral homestead. But when we got there, it was like walking into a memory that had been left out in the rain. The house was abandoned, the yard overgrown, and the walls cracked. Grandmother had passed on, and without her, the family had scattered like seeds in the wind. All along, she had been the one bringing the extended family together. My uncles had become enemies, fighting over the ancestral land. Life was now a race, and the family that won was one that had the most successful children, the most accomplished in life, good careers, happy marriages, and owned their own houses in the cities. We rarely spoke to each other. As we stood there, the silence was deafening. "Do you remember how we used to run errands here?" Wilfred asked, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "Run errands?" Amos snorted. "We were practically the staff." Michael laughed so hard he had to sit down on an old tree stump. "I swear, if I see another jerry can, I might faint." I smiled but felt a pang in my heart. Despite everything, this was still home. It held our roots, our stories, and our resilience. "We can't let this place die," I said, my voice firm. "It's more than a house. It's who we are." And so we decided to rebuild it, not just for us, but for the entire family. We chose to do better and avoid humiliating the less fortunate relatives since we understood how they felt. We turned the homestead into a nice place where families could celebrate, rich or poor, city or village. It became a place where no one was treated like an afterthought. Looking back, I'm grateful for those tough Christmases. They taught me that wealth can change your wardrobe, but kindness changes your heart. Now, when our city relatives call for help, we give it freely. Not because we've forgotten how they treated us, but because we've chosen to rise above it. Life is like a village jerry can. What you pour out is what you'll eventually carry back. Treat everyone with kindness, whether they're wearing patched shorts or city blazers, because tables turn faster than a Nairobi matatu. Wealth may polish your shoes, but it's kindness that polishes your soul. Never forget your roots. They're like Grandma's pilau recipe, humble but full of flavor. And remember, the cousin you made run errands today might be the one you'll need a favor from tomorrow. So, shine from the inside out, like a good charcoal stove, warming everyone around you with fairness and love. If you enjoyed this story and would like more of such life stories, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment.